Hello and welcome to the Oceans Roundtable sessions. My name is Evelyn, and for each session, we bring different voices together to explore how technology, innovation, and creativity are shaping our reality. And today, we would like to discuss a very trending topic, which is, of course, artificial intelligence, especially on how developers interact with it, and a very important question if we are partners or rivals. Today, I'm sitting down with two brilliant developers we have here at Oceans, Esteban and Jose. How are you guys?
Hey, Eve, how are you? So let me introduce myself. My name is Jose Aleman. I am a senior Java developer. I have been developing for more than 20 years. It has been a whole life for me. I have been working in Oceans for almost 2 years, and started in a financial project, and then I moved to another financial project. And yeah, I'm dealing with microservices. We are not dealing directly with artificial intelligence. However, I have my own projects using that for sure.
Great. Thank you very much. And Esteban, could you
Yeah,
please
hey,
introduce yourself? Mhm.
sure. So yeah, my name is Esteban. I have been working with Oceans for a little bit more than 2 years, and I have been a developer like a quarter of what Jose has been, so almost 4 years, something like that. I have worked a little bit with AI in projects, but very indirectly. Probably we're going to discuss a little bit that in the roundtable. But I do use AI every day.
That's great. So you're prepared for this episode, Esteban. Don't worry. So if you have been following us for a while now, you might have seen Esteban in a previous episode. Let me know in the comments if you have seen that episode. What do you think? And follow Oceans if you don't want to miss our future sessions. So, guys, I would like to start with a basic question. People might think that ChatGPT and similar tools are the only resources available. Like me, for example, I am not a developer, so I think about AI and I just think about ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot. So I would like to know if you could provide like an overview of the different tools humans have access to right now and what they are used for.
Let's start. Okay, let me start. So basically, ChatGPT is actually a model. So when we think about AI, we do think about ChatGPT, but there are other models like DeepSeek, Cloud, Gemini. So yeah, so I have been using most of them. They behave very similar, but depends on the project you want to work with. One might be better than the other one. So for instance, I'm using Cloud uh, integrated with Cursor. Cursor is an IDE very similar to Visual Studio Code, and basically it is just a chat in a side of your IDE, and then you can ask questions to it. And then what it does is basically read your code, suggest improvements, and anything that you wanted to ask, for instance.
Yeah, just to add to that one, I mean, I would say that there's two different things. So normally people say just AI, but it's not specific if they're talking about the model or like the interface, right? Like, for example, what Jose was mentioning is there are multiple different models from different companies, which basically compete to each other. But there's also other companies that just use those models. So you might be using some AI tool that under the hood is using ChatGPT, and you don't know. You just think it's another AI. So there's like a small distinction in there.
Great. Okay. And how would you describe AI's role in development to someone who hasn't used AI yet?
So this is a very interesting question because so basically, as I say, I have almost 25 years in this industry, and then I used to do the things, let's say, manually with my brain, right? Then like 2 months ago, I did a little exercise when I start a feature from the scratch doing manually, and then I recreate the feature using AI. So manually, it took me 3, 4 days, and then with the AI, it took me just less than a day. So it was very interesting. So at that time, I said, okay, instead of you know keep apart AI, I just wanted to embrace it in my case.
Yeah, I mean,
Great.
on my side, I have used it in multiple different ways as well. Um, I think I started using it when ChatGPT became like the big thing. Started asking questions, right? Like how to do something, etc. It has become a lot better. But then also there are other tools like integrations, for example, with the IDE. So in Visual Studio, it auto completes your code. You start writing, and it shows you what you were thinking that you had to do, but you didn't know that you wanted to do it that way. So I mean, there's multiple use cases. Actually, recently I even started uh, a site from scratch using one of these. I think they call it pipe coding, which is just like an IDE integrated into the browser, and you ask a question or propose something that you want to build, and it builds the whole project for you. So like literally in 2 hours, I had a website working with a database, sending emails, like very complete. But of course, it was still a simple application, just like filling a form and sending an email once that was done. So yeah, I think there's a lot of different tools, and of course, there's a lot that I haven't used. So there's many things.
Wow, that's very interesting. So we can definitely say that AI has helped you reduce your workload so you can focus more on other tasks, right?
Yeah, that is correct. So basically, as I said, I just wanted to step back a little bit and say that I used to work with a lot of code generators. So basically, there was a thought at that time that basically using code generators basically will improve the way that you code. And then when I started those, I said, oh, there is a lot of code generation that I don't know how it works, right, internally. But then I realized that when I started it using them, basically my development time was reduced to 50, 60%, right?
Wow, that's a lot.
So and then when I use AI, basically it reduced more the time to 70, 80% of the time. So it's very interesting.
And what solutions do you use most often with AI?
Okay, the one that I'm testing right now is Cursor. So
Okay.
so Cursor is an IDE very similar, or is a fork of Visual Studio Code, and then you have the model integrated, which in this case is Cloud.
And yes,
As I mentioned, ChatGPT, that's the one that I use the most, and I also use a little bit the integration with, sorry, of GitHub Copilot with Visual Studio. Mhm.
great. Thank you for sharing. So I am curious to know that that now that you're mentioning all this, but I'm curious to know which parts of your workflow AI cannot fully replace, at least right now.
So I believe the the business logic, right? This is something that you can describe maybe very detailed, and then the AI can start hallucinating because it start to try to mimic your business logic, but sometimes it takes a lot of time for the AI to try to mimic that, and that doesn't work. So I think business logic, it is something that it cannot be easily mimicked by those tools.
I would add that like being a developer is not just writing code, right? Like you have to talk to stakeholders. You need to understand what people actually want to build, because sometimes they just have an idea, but they cannot connect technically how to do things. Sometimes they don't even know what they really want. They just have a problem. So that part is a lot more difficult for the AI to help, right? Like uh, for the coding part, I would say it does replace a lot of what we do. And I think in the future it will replace us completely, probably. But there's, as I mentioned, there's other things about being a developer that are not coding, and I think those right now are the ones that we do best than or better than the AI.
Sure,
Oh,
that makes sense.
one thing that should be added as well is basically AI does what we tell it to do, right? So I think if we don't give the such instructions, I mean, the output is going to be a mess.
Exactly. It's just basically the prompts, right? Like when you use, just talking about ChatGPT, if you don't add the correct prompts to it, it will give you whatever it thinks it might be the best option. But it's that human part is so important. Like Esteban said, listen to the business needs of your client is very, very important. That is a very human part that, at least for now, I think cannot be replaced. And on that note, maybe to close this idea, Esteban, I would like to ask you if you could share like your top three ways that AI is helping developers save time in your daily work.
Okay, so one of them is definitely, I mean, or the one that I think is the most efficient right now is, for example, writing documentation. I think no one wants to write documentation, but it is a very necessary piece of a development process. So it can speed up that like incredibly. I would say that's not the one that I like the most, but the most efficient, I would say. Um, there's also debugging. Debugging has been like a problem for developers forever, I think, and the AI has helped a lot. Not only because you can just like paste the code and ask the model to help you or see if it finds any errors, but also because you can kind of talk to it, right? Like you can tell the model what you think the problem is, and then start a discussion, and that can like trigger that spark that you need to find what's the problem. Um, and another one that I use a lot in the kinds of project that I work is like helping you out to structure a project from scratch. For example, someone comes to you, or some client comes to you with a problem or an idea, and then you need to start thinking how you're going to translate that into technology. So you start talking literally to the model, and maybe ask the model to ask you some questions about it, and you start like laying out the basis of what you're going to build, and then from there you can take it and drive your way, right? But having those initial discussions on the structure, I think it's very helpful.
Thank you, Esteban. That brings up a really good perspective. And now moving a little bit about to the topic of this discussion. So collaboration or replacement. I know that sparks debate, and AI here is very well, alongside developers is very useful, but eventually AI can take developer's place, do you think? I know it's controversial, of course, but definitely is worth exploring. So I have a first question related to this section of the podcast. So do you think AI could ever replace developers entirely? Yes or no? And why?
This is a very tough question because in my case, nowadays it is not possible. I mean, we can collaborate, but a replacement, it is not possible. However, we can replace specific processes, right? The automation of the specific processes, we can replace them. However, we need to collaborate because, as I said before, if we don't let the AI to do what we need to do, the AI is not able to basically replace us. I don't think that possible nowadays. I don't know. I might need to wait several years or maybe decades to understand if this is possible. But from my point of view, it is just a tool for developers, a replacement.
Great. Esteban, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm on the same line. Like right now, I don't think it can replace us. It does automate, or it does even better some parts of the development process. But I do think at some point it is going to become so smart that it's going to become almost like a person, right? So I would say at that point, which I don't know when it's going to be, it could actually completely replace us, but not only as a developer, right? Like as anything else that a person can do. But yeah, I don't see that. Just, that's just a personal opinion. I don't see that happening like very soon, but it might happen sometime.
Okay, that's fair. So, thinking about the challenges that you have faced while integrating AI into projects, especially because this is very new. Like we have been using AI for the past maybe 5 or 4 years. So, what challenges have you faced while working with AI?
Yeah, my case, and it happened to me like 2 weeks ago. So there was a very complex process that I needed to understand. So basically, I asked, in this case, the cursor to tell me how the feature works. So basically, I got very good documentation, and then when I try to actually implement the feature, and I asked it to implement that, it didn't do well. So basically, after 3 or 4 times that I asked it to basically retry, I mean, sometimes AI hallucinate, right? So you start with a very good solution then, and then when you start asking more questions, they basically say, no, let's do it from scratch for no reason, right? So when you face that, there is a lot of challenge because even you describe what you need to do is just, I mean, for certain projects or for certain dependencies or for certain business logic, it is just doesn't work.
I to add to that one, I think, I mean, there's another problem that is not so technical, right? Like not related about the model itself so much. And it is that sometimes people think that AI is the solution to everything. So I have seen clients coming and saying that they, I don't know, they want to open a t-shirt business, but they want AI. You know, like people think that AI solves everything and anything. So it's a bit difficult to explain to people that uh, AI is just a tool and then it solves specific problems. It's not that you can just put AI to anything and that's going to make it better. It can actually make it worse. So I would say that's another a different kind of problem.
Yeah, it's not like the genie in the lamp that you can just ask for anything and it will magically appear, right?
Mhm.
It's part of, it's a tool, like you said. And Esteban, I would like to maybe your input, to know your input about the soft skills that remain critical for developers in this AI assisted world.
Yeah, I mean, every soft skill, right? Like soft skills are something really, really important. Like you cannot have AI replace your communication skills with your stakeholders, right? Like for example, I think communication is one of the most important things. If you keep your stakeholders updated and you keep them to like give them the truth, right? Like if they understand what you're saying, if they feel that you are connected to their project, um, that's just an example of communication, right? Like any other soft skill that you can think. Actually, I don't think any like AI has any soft skills, right? Like maybe it can be it can have some empathy or something like that, but I would say like what makes us really human are those things that AI, at least for now, is not able to replace or even help you with. You can ask him for some or it for some advice or something like that, but it's not as useful as for technical stuff, right? Like things that are very rational or very objective.
Right, right. AI could mimic maybe the soft skills of a human, but yet I don't think, like you said, Esteban, they're like soft skills specifically in AI. So that's a very good point. And to wrap up this section, Jose, I have a question for you. So, can we say that together AI and developers is a stronger, like a stronger combination than AI alone? And why?
For sure. So basically, we have been discussing if I can replace us for all, right? But I don't think that is possible. And the reason is that experienced developers like us, we know that we can have AI as a tool. Why? Because with our experience, we can tell it what we need to achieve, right? And that's why I think it is a very good tool. However, AI by itself, it cannot do everything. So actually, in the previous point, I think AI is very important when you need to create POCs. Why POCs? Because POCs is not business logic. It is just a set of features and technologies together, right? But in terms of business logic, you need to have is I mean, you need to know about the domain of the feature. You need to know about the domain of the technologies, and then AI will be a very good tool. So I believe that experienced developers with AI can achieve better tasks in less time if you use it correctly.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jose. Talking about this powerful combination of developers plus artificial intelligence, I would like to deep dive into more specific and technical questions on how you put it in practice. So, for example, how do you decide what can be automated and what must keep humans in the loop?
But let me ask you another question to see if I understood right. Like, you asking how to automate things with AI, or are we like disconnecting from AI a little bit?
No, how do you decide something can be automated and what must keep humans in the loop? What must be like, something that cannot be automated at all and must be your own decision, your own um, doing, for example.
I mean, for that one, I'm sorry, Jose, I'm going to start. I think basically what you don't automate is things that either cannot be automated or are too expensive to automate, right? Expensive in terms of money or time. Everything else you automate it, right? Like, because it's going to take less time and effort from you. But if you can, for example, testing, if you have the budget in terms of money and time, it's better to automate it. You don't have to worry about that as much as if you do it manually. So yeah, I would say basically those two.
Thank you. What about you, Jose?
Yeah, actually, I this is another great question because one of my side projects I'm working with resumes and resumes content, analyze content for resume and so on. So basically, when I start trying to analyze the content for a resume, I create my own algorithm. But the thing is that that algorithm took a lot of lines of code, right? Then when I tried to do the same with AI, it was of course less line of code, and then the improvement was amazing, right? So basically, those kind of things can be automated easily with AI, right? However, however, we need to be in the loop. So we need to analyze the outputs of those processes to understand if what we if those outputs are the ones that we needed or not.
Absolutely. And how does AI impact code quality, testing, and debugging?
So AI is supposed to be like a compilation of best practice for the different developers around the world, right? So basically, when you have a project and then you tell, I don't know, course or ChatGPT to analyze your code and say, okay, what do you think of this code? So basically, it tries to read all the code and it will give you a report, right? So I did that several times in different projects, and I see very good outcomes. So sometimes, or part of the report, there is a section that they uh, say like areas of improvement. So for the 6 or 7 projects I analyzed so far, those areas of improvement is actually very accurate. So it is it is it was interesting for me I mean, so basically, when you ask that question to AI, it took minutes, right? So, well, we didn't talk about this in the past or previously, but basically AI with the different models, you can have reasoning models, right? So those model will basically they are simulating, I guess, reasoning, and they take more time to give you the outputs, right? Because they are looking for the internet, I guess, and some other resources. So when I normally when I code, I use those models better, the reasoning ones, because I wanted to understand why they choose that solution for me. Mm. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's the really interesting point, Jose. And Esteban, how or like are there AI tools you have found indispensable for certain programming languages or frameworks that you use?
I mean, specific to any programming languages or frameworks, I don't know. I don't use any specific ones. I just
Okay.
really use the basically the two that I mentioned, ChatGPT and GitHub Copilot. And I don't know of any that are specific, but there might be. There's a lot of AI things, so I don't know if Jose knows any.
I mean, I use a lot of AI tools so far because, so for instance, I don't know if that happened to you, Esteban, but sometimes you ask, I don't know, let's say Copilot for something, and then the output is just not convincing you, right? So we'll say, okay, no, I'm not going to use Copilot, but I will use ChatGPT. And then when you go and see the output ChatGPT, you say, oh, this is what I was looking for, right? So, I mean, the answer to this question is I'm not, let's say, choosing a specific AI for a specific situation. I just ask the same question for the different AIs, and then I compare the outputs. I choose the output that I need in my
Yeah,
project.
I think that's very important. I mean, I think at least for now, or no, not even for now. Like in programming, there's a lot of ways to do the same things, right? Like you can do one thing in multiple different ways. So when you ask AI, you really need to be responsible and and read and learn what it is doing, right? Like it's not just asking and copy and pasting. You need to understand what's happening, and if you can even ask it to explain what's happening, well, but you need to understand what's happening in there. It's not just like using whatever it gives you. You need to still be a developer, do your work, and like augment your capabilities and your skills, but you still need to be a developer. It's not like anyone can just start doing the code that you used to do in the past.
Right, right. And now that makes me think, what advice would you give someone, a developer who wants to start incorporating AI into their workflow, but they have no idea, they haven't started? What should they think of like for the first time? Like,
Yeah, I
Uh,
would say. Sorry, Jose, go ahead.
Now, I will give you one, and then you can give another one because there are many, right?
Hmm.
So, and this is very interesting. So when I start with AI, I was using AI like I use Google, okay? And then I start looking into job position the same prompt engineers, right? I didn't know what a prompt engineer was. And then when I started studying it, I understand that the prompts are very important, right? So sometimes I believe, I mean, my advice is that if you are starting in this world and you know what to do, you will start asking the job, I mean, any AI to give you advice what you need to do. So in my case, sometimes I was basically giving very poor prompts and I was not having the results I needed. So I asked the AI, okay, give me a prompt that I can use to the specific thing. And basically the prompt was very, very good. And I started using it. And yeah, it worked for me.
Yeah, I would say there's a concept, or I don't know, a concept that saying something like that in development that was used a lot before ChatGPT and AI in general, and it was like the rubber dog, right? Like you used to have people literally had rubber dogs in their desk, because they it was a really great way to get unstuck from problems. Just talking to the rubber dog, trying to explain what you were doing or the problem that you were having, and just by understanding in your mind enough so that you could explain, you would come up with a solution. So I would say if someone is just starting with AI as a developer, I would say use it as a rubber dog, right? Like instead of talking to your rubber dog, talk to ChatGPT and try to explain what's happening. And now it's not going to stay in silence like the rubber dog. It's going to tell you things. It knows more than you, but it needs the right context. So if you start using it as a rubber dog, um, and you still don't trust completely the answers that it gives you, I would say you would start using it and you're going to get like the benefits, and you're not going to get the disadvantages, which are when you're like trusting it too much, right? Like just pasting whatever it gives you. So you have to do both, like trust it at the beginning and then make sure that it is telling you or giving you the output that you know or that you trust it's going to work as expected.
Wow, that's interesting. And this is a question that just came up to my mind, and because it happens to me all the time. Do you normally enter the prompt as specific and complete as possible from the beginning, or do you start with a small prompt and then add to it? What works best, or what is best for you? What have you tried? Both or
I mean, I think, as Jose was saying, it's best if you do a proper prompt, right? Like you take the time to write a good prompt. But that's not what I usually do. I usually just throw it away, what I need, and then if that's not good enough for me, I start elaborating the prompt a little bit better. As I don't know if that's at the end it takes more time the way I do it, but I don't know. I'm just a little bit impatient, so I just throw something to it and then start building from there.
I do the same because I'm impatient too. But thank you so much for your input, Jose. What do you think? You start from the beginning. You enter a huge prompt, and it tries to give you the whole perspective from the beginning.
Yeah, I need to be honest. I don't do that, right?
No.
I mean, at the beginning, I mean, at the beginning, what I was saying is that I use AI like I used Google in the past, right? So basically, just 3 or 3 words and see how it goes. However, I learned that if I ask for a prompt, right? So basically, I can say, I don't know, ChatGPT, can you give me a prompt to do this and this and this? He actually create me like a boilerplate of a prompt, and they I just fill in the blanks, right? And that will works better. So if I I mean, if I got a solution in the past, in the fifth and the sixth time, with that approach, I will get the solution maybe in the second and the third time.
Great. Thank you so much. And Esteban, what mistakes should developers avoid when using or when starting to use AI?
I think again, what I just said, like you cannot trust it 100%. If you ask for some code, for example, and it gives you an answer, just if you're going to copy and paste it, at least try to understand what's happening and read all of the code thoroughly, right? It makes mistakes, it does things in a different way than you want. So I think it's a good guide, a good start, but you cannot trust it completely, at least for now. You need to read and understand what's happening in the code.
Great.
That is correct. And most of the time, it will give you a lot of code, but sometimes that code doesn't compile, right? And then you
Mm-hmm.
need to go back and say, okay, this code doesn't compile, and then it will give you an improvement, and sometimes that improvement doesn't work as well. So you need to iterate, validate.
Mhm.
You need to validate no validate, evaluate the outputs and do the whole cycle until you got what you need.
Right. So there's still some human reasoning required. Absolutely. I agree with that. And for you both, finally, the last question we have for today. So, what do you think are like the top three practices every developer should know to start working smarter with AI? Esteban, if you want to start.
Can you rephrase the question? I think I didn't get it.
So, like the three top three practices every developer should know to start working smarter with AI. This is
Um,
more specific for developers.
yeah, I see. Yeah, no, I think I'm going to repeat a lot, right? Like I'm I'm saying the same things to every question, but I'm going to make it very short. Do not trust it, right? Like you need to read and understand what's happening. Another one would be use multiple different models, right? Like as Jose was mentioning, if you try one and it's not getting you good answers, then maybe try another one. And lastly, what can be? Yeah, I can only think of those two to be honest.
That's okay. And Jose, what about you?
What about I gave you four then, right?
Okay.
So it will be six at the end. So we were mentioning about prompts well structured. I think that's very important, right? Poor prompts, it will be poor quality in the outputs. You need to validate the outputs. As I was saying, sometimes the code that you give or the AI give to you doesn't compile. So you need to validate those outputs. Another thing that we need to, and I think that Stefan already talked about this, we need to verify if AI is the right fit, right? So, I mean, most of the time, I mean, there are some scenarios that AI is not the right fit, right? And then you need to, and the last one is that you need to keep the human in the loop, right? So it means that AI is supposed to learn about your inputs, right? Uh, so you need to keep in the loop in all the answer the AI is giving to you because you need to say, okay, this is good or this is not good. So in the future, AI will behave better for you, right? I mean, you need to give AI feedback as well.
That makes sense. Thank you so much, Jose. Any other advice that I didn't ask you, or any final words that you think might add value to this session?
No, I mean, I would just say, uh, I would say not to panic, right? Like I know that a lot of people or at least a lot of developers, including me, sometimes we get a little bit panic because we feel that it is replacing our jobs. But I think it takes some time, right? Like it still needs to mature to really replace us. And even talking only about coding, and then the other parts of development, that's a little bit more difficult. And then yeah, for now, just use it, right? Like it makes us super powerful. So just let's just take advantage of that.
Yeah,
Thank you,
in my
Esteban.
yeah, in my case, uh, so AI is not the future, it's now, right? It came, right? So we need to start embracing it, right? If we embrace it, we will realize that it is a powerful tool that can help us a lot in a daily basis. So embrace it, take all the advantages that AI provide to us, and it will make us better developers for the future.
Thank you, Jose. And thank you both for your time. I really hope our audience was able to learn a lot from this session. I know I did. So we'll have to wait and see what the future brings. Until next time, see you later. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.